Elan, I'm so excited because I come from a family which is obsessed with board games and card games, like obsessed. Like that's literally what we're going to be doing at Christmas, New Year with the entire family. And your game, Exploding Kitten, is right now on the desk of every one of my family members because they're trying to figure out how to play it. And we've just discovered that there's a French translation, so my mom is over the moon. So I'm very happy to be here today with you.
Oh, that's so delightful to hear. Thank you. I hope your mom enjoys it. And if not, let me know. I can we can set up a call. I can whisper into her ear and help her cheat a little bit.
Oh, no cheat. If someone cheated, it has to be me because I'm super competitive. Right. I want to win. Right. I don't play if I don't win.
Fair enough. I will whisper in your ear. Got it. Check.
Oh, thanks. All right. So I'm going to be nice with question, given that you're going to help me win with my family. That's awesome.
Let's do it. All right.
You and I, we've talked before the show about the fact that you use AI every day to amplify your creativity. And I thought that'd be interesting for you to share some of that with the people with us today.
Yeah. Taking a step back and describing what I do for a living, what it means to create games. And then I hope that each step of that and how AI is integrated into that can be really easily translated to whatever your creative endeavor is. I think it's kind of a one-to-one translation, but bear with me and we'll find out. So I think game creation, from my perspective, is really just three phases. You have to create a fun game. You have to come up with a good theme for that game, and then you have to sell the game. And those three phases, I think, are really relevant to whatever your endeavor is. When I say I have to create a fun game, whatever it is that you're working on, you have to create the insert successful adjective here, right? You have to create an effective tech startup. You have to create a viral marketing campaign, like whatever it is, however you define success. As I talk through the game creation process, I'm going to be using the word fun, but you can easily translate that out to whatever is the success criteria for your project. So let's start there. I have to make fun games. For me, that process is very time consuming. And it used to take months or years. And with AI, I've actually been able to shorten that to sometimes just a few hours. And I think the process is step one, define the problem. Like you need really good constraints. Sometimes AI can help you with that, but mostly you just don't want a completely blue sky environment. You want to figure out how can I build a thing that satisfies a very particular problem, that solves a very particular problem. So define your boundaries. Step one. Step two, fill your brain with all the things. Don't read some books, read all the books. Don't watch some shows, watch all the shows. Listen to all the podcasts. Like you really, anytime you find yourself with the opportunity to have an experience, either like leaving the house and doing something or consuming some form of media or having a fascinating conversation, take that opportunity. That is business research 101. You just need as many things in your head as possible. And that's very much a lifelong endeavor. And the more you're able to fill your brain with those things and remember them and index them really effectively, the better a creative entrepreneur you will be. The third step is the one that takes so long, which is mixing and matching. If you were working on a movie pitch, you look at the constraints that you set and you're trying to say like, which two things do I want to mix together? It's Jaws versus Sophie's Choice. It's a terrible example, but just
I want to play that game.
Yeah, I want to play that game too. Seriously, but when I'm creating a game, it's really that. It's I really like Uno. Can we combine Uno with Connect 4? No. How about if we take Connect 4 and mix it with bike riding? I'm really into bike riding now, right? And you go through this process of mixing and matching, and usually rejecting as fast as you can. And this is really where AI, in my opinion, steps in. Because I will, instead of working on that mixing and matching criteria for weeks and months and sometimes years when I'm really stuck, I can sit down with AI for a few hours and just work on prompts and say like, look, I'm going to supply the first thing and you help me out with all the interesting things that I could potentially mix this with. And oftentimes it'll generate lists and lists and lists, and they're all garbage, which is fine because that's part of the process. But it's really nice to pick one of them and say, you know what? Ignore the first thing I said. an item on your list was competitive rock climbing. Let's start there. Tell me about the things we can mix with competitive rock climbing to satisfy the criteria we talked about earlier and is baked into the prompt. And suddenly my ability to work with this intelligence with infinite patience and infinite ideas is so much better than what I can do on my own. It often won't yield the right idea, but I can usually shortcut weeks off the process because it helps me get through all the bad stuff faster, and it helps me find the little tiny sparks that might be interesting, and then I can grab those and dive right in. Oh, please go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
I will talk for hours unless you interrupt me, and it's always better with the interruption. So please help me steer this.
So what I find really interesting in what you're saying is that the exact, by the way, I had no idea that this is how games were created. I just, I find them like, oh, that's awesome. So now I understand better how you made that happen. But what I find really interesting is that what you were describing could be applied almost one-to-one to any entrepreneur looking for a business idea, like not just gaming, but like generally, like overall. Have you tried to apply that process, including the AI support, into just launching another business that is not necessarily related to finding a game?
I never have, but I will bet it would work. Like years ago, before I got into video games or card games, I was working with some friends and we were just working on essentially a storytelling company. And I remember I was sitting down with my mentor, a guy named Jordan Weissman, who is a legend in the video game world. And we sat down and we were talking about storytelling and creative storytelling and what it means to tell a story in the modern day. And we were sitting and we were eating, I remember, a sushi lunch, and his phone rang and he said, "What if that was the game calling me right now?" And my brain exploded. It was like, you just mixed two incredible things together, right? Storytelling and the ability to call players. Instead of the players opting into this thing, what if the game opted into the players? And so we ran off. We took a year. We built it. It was generally known as the world's first alternate reality game. You can go do all the research on this thing. It was called The Beast. But that process, we stumbled into that. And that was after probably weeks of thinking, well, what if this and what if that and what if this? And Jordan, in his brilliance, mixed the two correct things together at exactly the right time. For those who don't have a Jordan, AI serves that purpose perfectly because it will do that combinatorial mathematics at lightning speed. All you have to do is be really astute and really open-minded as you look at the results and find the two ingredients that are appropriate to mix together.
Do you think that AI help you keep the essence of the human experience in play? Because you talk a lot. I read some of your interviews and listened to some of the podcasts you did, including Masters of Scale. And you talk a lot about how you try to capture the human experience in all the games that you design. And immediately my mind jumps to, is AI ever going to be able to engineer the human experience the way you think about it and the way you've been integrating into your game?
So my fundamental premise behind all game design is that games should not be entertaining. Games should make the people you're playing with entertaining. And AI sucks at that. And that's great. That's great. That's going to keep me in business for a long time. When I said earlier, the criteria for me is make a fun game. My definition of fun is a game that shines the spotlight on the players, that makes the players entertaining, because I have found that those are the most fun games. When I think back to my childhood, which was a very game-heavy family, those are all my best experiences. It's when me and my siblings were laughing and throwing food and flipping the table over and cheating and collaborating and doing all that stuff. I don't even remember the games. I remember us. I remember those interactions. So when I say I need to make a fun game, it has to check off those boxes, those childhood memory boxes, the players being entertaining. And AI can supply these beautiful, infinitely long lists, but it will always be saying, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And it is up to me to say, nope, 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 nope. Yes, nope, a little of that. Let's move in this direction. And that human element of it is what changes it from a tool to a collaboration. And without those two parts, it would be an unfruitful collaboration.
Again, that's really interesting because it's back to the conversation I'm sure a lot of us have been having, which is AI coming for our job, or is it here to enhance our capabilities and help us be like superhuman? And what I'm hearing from you is you're in the second camp. Like you're thinking about AI as a way to make you better and just unleash your own creativity even further.
Yeah, I heard a great quote. I hate giving quotes unattributed, and I'm not going to be able to attribute this one. So someone's going to have to help me and look it up. But there was a writer in Hollywood who was asked if AI was going to take writers' jobs. And he said, AI is not going to take the jobs of any writers. AI is going to take the jobs of writers who don't know how to use AI. And it's exactly how I think about the game industry and its relationship to AI. It is an incredibly powerful tool. It shaves time off the process if you know how to use it correctly. And it is an incredible collaborator if you are open to guided collaboration.
I could not agree more. And I have heard the quote before. I have no idea where it's, who is the author. So please, someone in the chat, help us.
You know, the other thing that's fun, just to mention it, there's this other element that I never really thought of before, but have recently started doing this. Once we have a cool game and I'm looking for the theme or I'm looking for the title, I work with AI to generate the rule set. We come up with these instructions, we test them on real human beings, and then we eventually come up with instructions, what I think of as perfect instructions. I'm so proud of all the instructions in our games because I go through so much testing, and you should be able to learn how to play these games in 5 minutes. Then to figure out the theme, I take those instructions that I've spent weeks working with an AI to generate, and I feed them right back into the AI and say, become an expert at this game and tell me what it should be called to attract this target audience. And the results are never perfect. I've never gone with any of the ideas, but what it does come up with are really nice conversation starters for me to take to my human counterparts and have discussions that aren't starting at square 0. We get to start at square 3 or 4 instead.
Did you use that to find the Exploding Kitten title, which I thought is an amazing name?
Yeah. So the Exploding Kittens title is the brilliance of my co-founder, Matt Inman, who's the author and creator of The Oatmeal. And the game was originally called Bomb Squad because I had designed this game where it was just Russian roulette with a deck of cards. Here's a deck. There's some bad cards in it. Avoid the bad cards. We'll call it Bomb Squad. The bombs are the bad things. Really easy. All I was focusing on is game design. And I showed it to my friend Matt, and he looked at it and he said, this is the most fun game ever. 2 things. 1, you should let me be your partner on this thing. And 2, it's so obvious to be scared of bombs. Of course you're scared of bombs. Because that's so obvious, it's entirely boring. What if instead you were scared of cute, adorable, fuzzy little kittens and we call the game Exploding Kittens? So more proof that AIs are never going to quite take the place of humans because people like Matt come along and they're so overwhelmingly funny and brilliant that they come up with the answer in a second.
I love that story.
Can I ask you a question? Can we go back and forth a little bit?
It's supposed to be a dialogue. At least that's what Jim told me. So I don't know.
I am so excited to ask this because you have such a unique perspective on this, and your exposure to startups and that, that elevator pitch and people coming to you and trying to explain why their idea is best, why their idea is going to be successful. And I'm sure that more and more you see AI playing a part in that, right? As they try to integrate AI into their pitches. What are the red flags? What do they say where you think immediately, oh, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, or this will absolutely never work because they do not understand. They're just throwing jargon at me, and therefore this is all irrelevant.
Oh, that's a good one. I try to think less in terms of red flag and more in terms of potential, because sometimes, you meet with an entrepreneur and you're like, this is an absolutely crazy idea. Like, this is never going to work. Like, they don't even seem to know fully what they are actually talking about. Like, they understand the problem, but the solution that they're bringing, not sure. There's probably some work to do. And by the way, part of the work we do at Techstars is to help them come with better solution and better business to make these solutions available. So that's kind of part of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But over the years, the one thing that I have constantly thought about, whether it's AI or blockchain, it used to be the fashionable word of not that long ago, like 2 years ago. Tell me something that AI is going to help you to do that was not possible to do before. Even if you don't fully understand the technology, tell me in one sentence, thanks to AI, we're going to do X. And if I immediately see that without AI, X would never have been possible, I'm like, oh yeah, great, makes sense. Like, let's try to work with you on how we can make that a real business. And so I don't really care about whether you're going to use the word AI in your pitch the same way. I don't really care about whether you're going to use the word blockchain or Web3. What I care about is there a big, gigantic problem in front of us? And do you have a really different way of solving it versus everyone else? And if that means using AI, awesome. If it means not using AI because you have a better option, that's fantastic too.
That's such a good question to ask. I love that. It jumps right to the heart of it and really puts them in the hot seat of like, do you actually know what you're talking about? That is so nice. Okay. I want to dive a little deeper in that. Here's proof that I did my homework. So you wrote this wonderful article in Fast Company about antitrust regulation. And I'm going to sort of pick and choose pieces of it to frame this question. As these large companies get like more and more power, more and more resources, they're just, acquiring all these smaller companies and putting themselves at a strategic advantage over potential startups. Let's talk about AI in that regard. Are there versions of AI resources that those larger companies either have or could gain access to that the rest of us, the smaller people, will never have access to? And therefore, it's not an even playing field. Like, is that a potential risk? Is that a reality? Is that science fiction? Like, where are we with AI as a tool for big companies versus startups?
So I've never heard someone saying the word wonderful after I read that article about antitrust regulation. So I'm like, I'm all excited now.
Love it.
I mean, the way I think about it is, I think about it in terms of analogy. I think about Amazon. I come from e-commerce originally before joining Techstars, and Amazon probably built the best e-commerce supply chain in the entire world. And as a result of them building that incredible supply chain, they gain an unbeatable, in my opinion, competitive advantage. That make it really, really hard for retailers and other e-commerce companies to compete, especially the ones who went head to head with the type of choice and the logistic infrastructure that Amazon had built. But at the same time, the exact same structure that made Amazon such a giant, it was open up to third parties, and that enabled a number of small players who would never have been able to do that sort of e-commerce at scale. It also pushed players outside of Amazon, so like UPS, for example, FedEx, to provide white label delivery services. And in return, these white label delivery services allowed more businesses, more e-commerce businesses to be alive and grow. And so I think about AI a little bit in the same way. There is going to be some businesses which are going to disappear. And frankly, if you're an entrepreneur and your dream is to compete with ChatGPT, you're probably not going to succeed because of the compute power and the data sets required to even remotely have a shot at competing. So the only businesses that might compete are most likely state-backed or big tech-backed. But all of this is also going to create a huge opportunity to leverage this infrastructure to build startups. And so there's going to be competition in the same way there were competition over delivery because of Amazon. So if you're asking, are you as a startup going to be able to compete head-to-head with big tech? Probably not head to head, but you're going to have opportunities anyway to launch businesses. And maybe at some point, these businesses will cannibalize big tech. And that, to me, that's what AI is so exciting because it allows new businesses to come and solve problems that big tech is not capable of solving right now.
I love that. Okay, there's hope.
There is always hope. You and I are entrepreneurs, so we're by definition borderline delusional and optimistic.
Fair enough.
This is Masters of Scale.
Hey, bye.